The film starts in the home of Evie Bobbitt, who is caring for her ailing mother, while singing lullabies to comfort her as she lies bedridden and unresponsive. At around 2:30 a.m., Evie calls her friend Justin to begin recording their weekly horror podcast, The Undertone. Evie plays the skeptic, while Justin leans into believing in the supernatural. Before they start, they talk about Evie's situation. Her mother hasn't eaten in days and is getting worse, while her boyfriend has been mostly absent and unhelpful. They begin the episode, and Justin brings up a viral video that shows a smiling woman whose face slowly distorts over time, and it's rumored that 92 viewers took their own lives after watching it. Justin then tells Evie he has something interesting for this episode. Earlier, he received a strange email from an unknown sender. The address looks like random letters. The subject line just says LOL, and the message itself is nothing but descending letters and an upside-down smiley face. Attached to the email are 10 audio files. Justin forwards everything to Evie, and when she looks at it, she reads part of the text as atonement at Tenet, though neither of them understands what it means. They decide to play the recordings on the podcast. The files appear to be phone recordings from a young couple named Jessa and Mike. In the first clip, Mike explains that Jessa has been talking her sleep, so he records her to prove it. During the night, Jessa starts singing London Bridge is Falling Down while still asleep. In the second recording, Jessa gets out of bed and begins moving around the house, sleepwalking. In the background, the same song is playing, but this time it sounds reversed. This leads Justin to look into the origins of London Bridge, bringing up Eleanor of Provence, who was involved in its construction and allegedly lost all 9 of her children. According to the story, she feared the bridge would collapse and ordered orphan children to be buried in its foundation. Evie responds by mentioning that her own mother used to sing her the Black Sheep nursery rhyme as a child. Justin then looks into the nursery rhyme as well, trying to find any similar hidden meanings. According to one interpretation, the song is about a sheep farmer whose entire flock produced black wool. At the time, black wool was considered useless because it couldn't be dyed, which meant the farmer had nothing to sell. With no income, he and his family eventually starved to death. Villagers later discovered the sheep feeding on the bodies of the dead family. Justin uses this to reinforce his point that many children's songs may actually be rooted in dark, real-world suffering, often involving death, starvation, or children being affected by the actions of adults. Justin then plays the third file, where Jessa suddenly wakes Mike, saying she hears something in the house. Moments later, they both realize the sound is coming from a running faucet. The water is on for no clear reason. While listening, Evie becomes increasingly uneasy. The background noises in the recording start to feel too familiar, almost like they're coming from inside her own home. The tension gets to her, and they decide to stop for the night, agreeing to continue the episode in a few days. The next morning, Evie wakes up feeling nauseous and later calls to schedule an appointment because she thinks she is pregnant. Also, a nurse visits to check on her mother and explains that her breathing has reached what's known as the death rattle, a sign that she likely doesn't have much time left. Over the next few days, Evie is left to handle everything on her own. She cleans her mother, helps her back into bed after she falls, and continues monitoring her condition as it steadily worsens. That night, Evie listens to the Black Sheep nursery rhyme file that Justin sent her and plays it in reverse. As she slows it down and listens closely, she hears a faint phrase buried in the audio, something that sounds like "lick the blood off." Shortly after, she receives a call from her doctor confirming that she is 6 weeks pregnant. Evie says she needs time before making any decisions. At the same time, strange things begin happening around the house. Lights flicker, unexplained noises echo through the rooms, and a statue of the Virgin Mary keeps appearing even after Evie tries to move out of sight. The following day, her boyfriend calls her, but she ignores it. Instead, Evie pours herself a drink and sits down at her computer. She opens a folder labeled Mama and plays an old voicemail from her mother. In the message, her mother calls Evie her little girl and tells her she's praying for her. She isolates the line, "I'm praying for you," and begins replaying it on a loop. Afterward, Evie starts searching online about hidden messages, focusing on children's songs and prayers. As she digs deeper, she comes across disturbing imagery and content tied to children. Soon after, Evie and Justin start their next recording session by continuing with the fourth and fifth audio files. In the fourth file, Jessa brings a doll into bed with them. The doll speaks in a soft, childlike voice, saying that she likes it there in the dark, which makes Mike uncomfortable. During their conversation, it also becomes clear that the couple has a baby room set up, suggesting that Jessa is pregnant. Later that night, they're both woken up by loud banging sounds coming from somewhere inside the house. Evie immediately assumes it's something explainable, like faulty plumbing. But Justin isn't convinced. He says that just before the banging started, he heard something else, a faint voice buried in the background. He rewinds the audio and plays it again at a higher volume. This time, Evie hears it too, but neither of them can make out what it's saying. Evie suggests it could just be an audio artifact, possibly a leftover overlap from a previous recording, and they move on. In the fifth file, things escalate. Jessa is heard repeating a strange phrase over and over in her sleep, something that sounds completely unnatural and unintelligible. Mike tries to wake her, disturbed by what he's hearing, but Jessa suddenly snaps out of it, confused, as if nothing happened. At this point, even Evie starts to feel the pressure. She says she's tired and needs sleep, and they decide to end the episode, agreeing to continue in a couple of days. Before hanging up, Evie tells Justin she'll take a closer look at the strange audio artifact and try to figure out what it actually is. Later that night, before going to bed, Evie notices the light in her mother's room flickering on and off again. She walks in and switches it off herself, leaving the room in complete darkness as her mother lies still in bed. The next morning, Evie returns to check on her. Above the bed, the religious icon that had always been perfectly aligned is now slightly tilted. Later, Evie takes a closer look at the strange audio artifact on her own. She isolates the section from the recording, reverses it, and amplifies the sound to hear it more clearly. As the distortion fades, it becomes obvious that the voice isn't Jess's. There's something else layered underneath, another presence speaking through the audio. This time, she hears clearly the words, "Come in, Abizu." Not long after, at exactly 3 a.m., the lights in the room begin flickering again. Evie sits there, staring at her screen, listening to the audio. At some point, she seems to drift or lose focus, but when she looks back at the clock, only a few minutes have passed. When they return to the podcast, Evie shares what she discovered, and the two begin researching the name Abizu. They learn that Abizu is a demon from ancient Middle Eastern and European folklore, believed to prey on pregnant women and newborn children. According to legend, she was unable to have children of her own, and that envy twisted her into something malicious. She is said to wander from home to home, causing miscarriages, stillbirths, or even influencing mothers to kill their own children. Justin continues digging and finds more detailed accounts tied to the name. In one story, Abizu was captured and punished by King Solomon, but her spirit continued to exist after her death. He also comes across a more recent case, where locals believe the demon had attached itself to a religious statue of Saint Rita, a figure associated with desperate or cursed mothers. According to the story, a woman who worshipped the statue ended up murdering her husband and then killing her own baby. Afterward, she placed the baby's skull into the statue's hands along with an inverted crucifix, and it was claimed the remains were never removed. They then move on to the sixth audio file. In the recording, Mike asks Jessa if she remembers anything from the previous night, but she says she doesn't recall any of it and seems completely unaware of what happened. Evie leans toward a rational explanation, suggesting it could be a form of mental illness. However, Justin notices something unusual in the recording itself. As Jessa speaks, the waveform shows overlapping patterns, as if two voices are layered on top of each other. While Evie dismisses it as a technical anomaly, Justin starts to believe that something else might be present within the audio. They move on to the seventh audio file, where a baby crying can be heard faintly in the background while Jessa is asleep and snoring. Mike wakes up confused and unsettled, trying to figure out where the sound is coming from. Suddenly, Jessa lets out a loud scream and tells him she saw something by the kitchen sink. Mike goes to check, but says there's nothing there. Evie immediately dismisses it, saying it's probably just a neighbor's baby and nothing to worry about. Justin then tries to reply to the email that originally sent the files, hoping to find out who is behind it, but the message bounces back and the address no longer exists. As he looks at it more carefully, he realizes something. The email address, which looked like random letters at first, actually forms a phrase when read backwards that says, "Come in Abizu," which is the same phrase they heard in the recordings. Even though Justin is starting to feel uneasy, Evie pushes him to continue. They move on to the 8th file, where Jessa wakes Mike up again because of the same loud banging sounds coming from inside the walls. As the audio plays, the Black Sheep nursery rhyme starts playing in the background. This time it isn't distorted or reversed, and it's the exact same version Justin had sent to Evie earlier. The audio suddenly cuts, and what follows is more noise, baby sounds, and Jessa screaming again, saying she saw something. This is where Justin starts to get seriously shaken. He points out that the song being there doesn't make sense, especially not the same version, and it starts to feel like everything is connecting in a way it shouldn't. But Evie keeps brushing it off, saying it's just a coincidence. Justin then looks deeper into the phrase, "Come in Abizu," and finds 2 separate cases connected to it. In one case, a woman became obsessed with the phrase, kept sending it to random people, and eventually drowned her own baby in a sink. In a second case, a pregnant woman became fixated on it, started making disturbing figures of dead children, and later took her own life while still pregnant. At this point, Justin is clearly freaked out and says they should stop the episode because he feels like they've taken things too far. But Evie refuses. She tells him this is good content and that people will eat it up. Instead of stopping, she suggests they end the episode here for now, turn it into a 2-part story, and continue later with live callers. Justin hesitates, but eventually agrees. Evie goes back upstairs to check on her mother. Sitting beside her, she tells her about the pregnancy and that she was thinking of naming the baby Mary. She mentions how her mother used to pray with her every night, but then admits she doesn't feel fit to be a mother. While she's still in the room, the bathroom light suddenly turns on by itself. Evie notices it and goes to turn it off as her mother rises slowly from the bed. Later, try to calm herself down, Evie puts on a guided sleep meditation. It starts off normal, with a calm voice describing a peaceful lake, but quickly turns disturbing. The imagery becomes graphic and unnatural, describing something rising from the water, and the voice shifts into something distorted and aggressive, filled with references to children and violence. After this, Evie hears her mother say something. She immediately reacts and asks her to repeat it, but her mother remains completely unresponsive. After that, Evie and Justin begin the final part of their episode, moving on to the last 2 audio files and inviting listeners to call in live. At this point, Evie insists the whole thing is a hoax, saying Jessa and Mike likely staged everything for attention. Justin plays the 9th file. In the audio, Jessa is crying, saying she woke up and saw a shadow in the room. She says she tried to pray, but the shadow started praying with her. As she describes it, her crying suddenly shifts into twisted, unnatural laughter before the recording cuts out. Right after this, Justin notices something strange on his screen. The clock on his laptop reads 2:40 a.m., even though it should be 8:40 p.m. in his time zone. Instead, it's showing Evie's time. He points it out, but Evie brushes it off, joking that it's just a glitch in the Matrix. Then the first caller comes through. A man says that Jessa and Mike were his neighbors, and that they were found dead at the bottom of their stairs with plastic bags over their heads. He adds that the walls of their home were covered in drawings of dead babies and confirms that Jessa was 5 months pregnant. Before he can say more, the call begins to distort and cuts out. Another caller rings in. She says that when she was a child, a woman rented out her family's basement and used to play children's songs backwards every night. The woman was eventually arrested after killing her baby by putting it in a garbage bag and repeatedly slamming it against a wall. Justin hesitates before playing the final file. He says the message in the email might have been a warning, atonement at Tenet, possibly referring to the 10th file, and that maybe they weren't supposed to listen to it. He feels like something will happen if they do. But Evie pushes him to continue. Reluctantly, Justin plays the 10th file. In the audio, Jessa keeps repeating that she is listening and says she needs to warn her, presumably talking about Evie. Mike follows her as she moves through the house, and at one point Jessa says something about licking the blood off. The audio suddenly cuts out, then starts again, but now it's filled with distorted lullabies, loud banging, and overlapping sounds. Jessa is heard screaming again, and at one point, she tells Justin that she is so cold. Justin is shaken, and Evie immediately turns on him, accusing him of setting this up. Before they can process it, another caller rings in, repeatedly demanding to speak to Mary, the name Evie had privately chosen for her child. Then another call comes through, warning them that they should never have listened to all the recordings. The caller says Abizu is tied to the 10th file and waits for people to hear it. As the call continues, the voice starts to break apart. By the end, it no longer sounds like a single person, but multiple voices layered together, turning fully demonic. Then the final caller comes through, a woman named Abby, who sounds panicked and overwhelmed, saying her baby won't stop crying. Evie and Justin try to calm her down and ask what's happening, but as the call continues, they begin to hear water running in the background. As the baby continues crying, the situation escalates. The audio strongly suggests that she is drowning the child. Evie tries to talk her down, telling her she understands, and admitting that she feels like she killed her own mother by ignoring her and refusing to pray with her, trying to convince Abby that she isn't a bad person. For a moment, Abby continues crying. Then her sobbing turns into laughter. The voice on the line no longer sounds like her. It becomes layered and inhuman, and it says that it's too late. After that, everything falls apart. The audio fills with distorted noise, overlapping voices, and loud banging, and the connection cuts out. Inside the house, Evie starts seeing drawings of Abizu appearing on the walls. She runs upstairs and sees her mother emerging from the bathroom. At the same time, brief flashes appear of a figure with a plastic bag over their head, strongly implying Evie's fate. The film cuts to black as Evie screams and calls out to Justin, saying she's so cold. Her voice distorts, and as everything fades out, she begins repeating the demonic phrase and inviting Abizu to come inside. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time.